So which companies have the cheapest full coverage car insurance for you? Now, we say full coverage, which means comprehensive, collision, liability, all of the main coverages. I have to explain that because the comments go crazy with agents that say that full coverage isn't a word. I get it. Like, we understand. But in general, the world calls it full coverage. So having the full coverage with all the extras, we'll say, who is going to be the best price for you? And is it a good company to go with? Let's dive in and go over the main 5 to 6 companies, and then I'll give you my opinion on some of them as well. This article came from a company called Money Geek. The criteria that you have to know is they're using the standard coverage, which is $100,000 per person, $300,000 per accident. If you're looking for coverage, I honestly would carry $250,000 per person, $500,000 per accident. I don't think that's going to skew the numbers in this case. It's just that the cost would be a little bit higher than the standard coverages that we're talking about here. The other asterisk that we have to go, and we'll go over this in the end of the video, is what state are you in? Every state's different. If you're in Michigan, you're paying $300 a month for full coverage, depending on your location, who you are, all of the things. If you're in Virginia, you're maybe paying $100 a month if that's the scenario. Ohio, Tennessee, it doesn't matter as far as the vehicles as much as the location. Now, that all plays a factor to create this profile. Let's dive in and go over the companies that we have available. Coming in at number 7 is Farmers Insurance. They're saying the average cost is coming in about $1,500, so about $120 to $130 a month for having the full coverage. I'm assuming it's a $500 deductible, and that's pretty decent. Farmers owns a company called Bristol West, who is extremely competitive. That's one of the companies that actually we're 5 out of the 7 companies we work with. Cool to see. But the companies that they use, they have Farmers, they have Bristol West, they have Foremost, depending on what type of policy you're looking for, but they do really well. They also are overall a decent company. Farmers has been the staple of the old insurance. It's kind of like the mom and dad type of insurance. Not that there's a ton that have happened, but they don't necessarily have a lot of the extra pieces that you can purchase. That being said, if you're looking for a good company that has a good overall AM Best rating, that is in general just a great one to look towards, Farmers or Bristol West is an option that you have available. Coming at number 6 is Allstate Insurance. They're saying the cost is about $14.60, so about the same as Farmers. They're within a few dollars of Farmers. And I'll be honest, Allstate on my radar hasn't been that cheap. I think that is about half of the cost that they are right now, mainly because the Allstate was announced that they were going to have the largest rate increase about 2 years ago, and they followed suit with that. Some states they went up 30%, other states they went up, I believe, 50%, and their prices have just skyrocketed. Don't get me wrong, they're really competitive on home insurance, not as much on auto, but again, it depends on the location. We have some people in Virginia and Ohio that Allstate comes in really competitive. If you're in Michigan, the auto is not as competitive in most cases. That's why having an independent agent that can check, depending on your location, the type of company you want to lead towards, your profile, your credit, your location, your cars, the drivers, the claims, all of the things that create what your insurance score will be, that is made up with that policy. That doesn't mean that Allstate or a Progressive or a Safeco or anyone's going to be different. It's just the type of policies that they're looking to put their business with. I'll put a link in the description below if you are shopping for other car insurance or home insurance or business or any type in general, where you can do a quote with a local agent. It does help to have them be able to shop around for you. The 5th best company is Progressive, and I'm not gonna lie, I like Progressive a lot. Progressive has been that not raise your rates really heavy type company. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some areas where they have gone up 20% or even 30%, just like Allstate has. But I'd say in the majority of the areas, they're the one that creeps up a little bit over time, right? 2% here, or 5% here, or 3% here, a little bit of inflation plus an extra 2%. Right now, with these companies going 30+% up, I'm okay with that. Like, I am comfortable with what is now the norm of pricing with car insurance. Their cost, they're averaging about $1,300, so about $100 to $110 per month. They're very competitive if you've had a claim, if you've had a lapse. Some of the middle type risk type of insurance, that's where they shine the most. They also are starting to implement a new warranty program. So if your car, if you want to have a mini extended warranty on it, They're one of the few companies that offers that as well. The fourth one is no surprise, and I probably would put them as fifth, is State Farm. They're the larger of the companies. They're the largest insurance company in the US in general. So if you're in, like we said, Tennessee, if you're in Ohio, if you're in any of those main states, farmers can be competitive. The issue that you're going to run into with them, and it's not necessarily a huge issue, is because they're so large, they're always in the news. The roofs aren't being paid correctly. There's videos all over about that. There's a lot of complaints lately. There's a ton of news. And I don't know if that's necessarily just because they're a huge company or if they are just really going downhill. Now, financially, their AM Best rating, which is what their stability of a company is, got a big hit. They went from an A down to a B plus, I believe. And I don't know if they've come back, but that was in the last 12 months. They may have tried to bounce back, but they're hurting as far as their auto and home financial stability. But again, I don't know if that's just because they're so large and the news blows that up, or if in general they're just a bad company. Now, the agents that I know, I have friends that are agents, are amazing. They've helped where I couldn't help. They've got good policies in general. They are focused on coverage because it's a name brand. They're trying to more focus on, we're branded. We want to build a brand more than we want to save you $10. So I do like the fact that they do focus a little bit more on the customer. The main piece that I personally don't like, because I've come across this more than I can count, probably 7 out of 10 times when the price is a factor, they'll cut everything off that policy and pretend like it was a discount. And so you're actually purchasing, and this is more the agents that I've dealt with than the company, but the agents that I've personally seen when I've been writing a policy out from underneath them, I guess I took their customer, right? Or they're shopping around and we requote them, is they tend to just chop the coverages off and then present it as a new policy, which, yeah, it's hundreds cheaper, but they totally raised the deductibles, they lowered all the coverages, and at the end of the day, I don't like working with agents that do that. That's not in the customer's best interest. That's just been personal experience of mine, and it's been a massive personal experience. It's countless. Again, I don't want you to feel like I'm bashing State Farm. There's a reason they're the largest company. They've been good in general. I've had a lot of bad experiences with them, and I'm sure if customers have had a lot of good experiences, let me know in the comments below, what experience have you had with any of these companies in general, good or bad? The third one, I might have skipped a number, but the third one is Geico Insurance. Geico is just slamming the market right now. They used to be the largest marketing company. They would market the crud out of it, and they were in the news for just spending so much on ads. You see the gecko, you see the caveman, all of the things that kind of make Geico who they are. They've really stopped doing that. In the last probably 2 years, they've cut their budget in half, if not over 75%. I know when the pandemic hit, they just completely shut down as far as marketing. They were big enough that they could sustain that. Now they have seen some price increases, but they're not really implementing large increases, which is why they're in this slot for being one of the better priced. They're coming in at about under $1,200, so about $100 a month. Now, again, like I said, I probably would almost take 50% and add it to these because the prices have gone up with everybody. So if this is saying 100, if you're paying 150, then that might be a little bit different. But you have the option of saving a ton going with Geico. Geico is kind of that everyman brand where they're competitive in almost every scenario. If you've got a ticket, they're still pretty competitive. If you're a good driver, they're still pretty competitive. If you have had a claim with them, they usually pay pretty well. They're, I believe, an A rated or an A plus rated company, so they're really stable. In general, they've just done really well to where you really just can't say anything great about them, but you can't say anything horrible about them. I mean, there's the experiences, again, put in the comments below. But in general, I've seen them be just overall a decent competing company. Now that they're starting to implement independent agents where independent agents can start to shop and sell them for you, now that's gonna help them grow a lot more. We're gonna see that they're gonna grow a lot better and a lot longer and faster coming up in the next few years. If you're a young driver, your best bet in most cases, this sounds crazy, but State Farm has been one of the more competitive for younger drivers. This scenario is between the age 30 and 59, so if you're above 30, these are the competitive prices that we're talking about. If you're under 30, a lot of times I would just put Geico and State Farm as the two companies to look at. Now that doesn't mean these guys aren't competitive, these other ones, it just depends on the state location like we said before. Spot number 2 is, I don't know if I'd put them here. Not because they don't deserve to be here. They're a great company, it's Nationwide. Nationwide or Allied or Direct General or whatever their name are, they've got like a ton of different underwriting companies, have been very competitive. We've used them in the past. I've loved to use them. They have decent coverages. They offer vanishing deductibles. They offer accident forgiveness. All of the things that you would want in addition to a policy, they offer. The reason I wouldn't put them in the second slot is they deserve to be there because of price. It's $11.41, so about $90 to $95 a month is average for them. But they're revamping a lot, so they're going through some changes that they really just have shut the doors. Instead of these companies that have said, all right, let's just kind of muck through the mud and try to get through all of these rate increases and try to fix them as we go, where Nationwide said, no, we're just gonna block everybody off in the states that we're not competitive in and start to revamp our product. So where they were over competitive, they're trying to fix that because they're getting losses, and too many losses, it's hurting them as a company. So they're putting these barriers and these blocks, they're called pre-bind pauses, to where you have to prove this, you have to show this. And at the end of the day, most people won't go through those steps to go towards that policy. And for the agent, it's a lot more complicated because they don't even know the price until you've gone through the steps. They might even be higher and you've jumped through all these hoops and you're just like, well, what'd I do that for? That being said, great company, good pricing, it's just getting in the door that's the biggest issue. The number one company, and I think you guys are gonna flip a coin and say you love or hate them, is Travelers Insurance. Travelers Insurance has been a very powerful company in specific states. Virginia, Tennessee, Ohio, Texas. They're not so huge on home in a lot of states because they're very tight on the home part. But as far as the auto, they are huge on that. They are crushing it. You go to Michigan, not so much. That's just not a state that they want to insure, at least not at a competitive price yet. In general, they're pricing about $11.24, so they're about $90 to $94 a month for the full coverage option. I wish I saw them show up a lot more because they are a little bit tighter on the business. Like I said, they're a really good company. They're tight on claims a little bit, so they're not your, I'll let anything go through. They do want to make sure they're writing the right business, they're taking the right type of clients, and they're very good at that. As far as an agent experience, their system's cool. The renewals, they'd show me what went up, what went down. So every time that we reshop a customer and say, here's what changed since you last had your policy, it's easy to tell what's changed with them. And that's one of the benefits of a customer, is knowing and having the transparency of knowing where your policy is, why it's there, and what you can do to fix it. The last piece, like I said, we are going to go into some states. I'm just going to list here. I'm going to grab my phone and look them up on this. But the states that are the cheapest is Alabama's a really expensive state. They say Country Financial is the best. They say it's $600 a year. There's no way. That's got to like 4x that. I'm going to say $2,000 a year. Alaska, they're saying Allstate is one of the most competitive, about $1,000 a year. Arizona, under $1,000 is Root Insurance. I don't like that one. I'm not a big Root fan. I've made videos about Root. They've got good plans and ideas. The stability isn't there for me. Arkansas's Farm Bureau at about under $1,000. California, CSAA. Another one that's kind of a hidden gem is 21st Century. I used to work there. Just make sure you have the right coverages because they're super competitive price-wise. But those agents, and I was one of them, were just trying to get the cheapest price. So focus on the coverage first and then talk the price. Colorado is American National, Connecticut is Geico, Delaware is Travelers, District of Columbia is Erie Insurance, Florida is Travelers according to this. Florida's a crapshoot. They might not even be there by the time I make this video. Georgia, Country Financial, Hawaii, Idaho, Illinois, Indiana. So in general, you got a couple auto owners in here, which is a decent company. This is why I recommend that you probably should look at an independent agent. Not that the other ones aren't great, but they are able to shop multiple companies. And on this list of 7, 5 of them are usually with independent agents. So you have that option of just pulling into one quote. I'll put the link in the description below, but you have the option of doing that quote to where you can work with most of these. Then Progressive's been really hot, and Safecoast, even though their prices are higher, everyone else is starting to raise them anyways, so they're starting to be more competitive. Ohio, Nationwide, although Travelers is really hitting them for the money on that one. They're saying way under $1,000 a year for that. We've got Tennessee, they say Farm Bureau is doing really well, although their price seems a little bit high, about $900, $856 per year. I'm seeing a lot of other companies more competitive than that, Travelers included. Texas, you've got Farm Bureau as well, although they're starting to slow down. Even Farmers is starting to slow down in Texas. It's mainly the homes that are causing the issues. We've seen a lot more competitiveness in that state. Virginia, honestly, I wouldn't even list a company. They're all competitive in my opinion. At least when I see these prices come across, I'm like, man, I'm gonna move there just so I get some of the prices that they're paying. Those are the main states that you're gonna look at. Like I said, if you have questions, put them in the comments below. Let me know what your thoughts are. Was there a company that I'm missing in here that you have found that's been very good for you, or some that we should stay away from? If you're looking to stay away from some companies, I do have a list, which even though a lot of these are really competitive in here, some of them may be on the list to avoid. Here are the 10 insurance companies you should avoid. If you're looking and not quite understanding the policies that you need to have, here's our Car Insurance 101 that'll go a little bit more in depth. I'm Mark with Think Insurance. I'll see you in the next one.